Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of the Cultural Diplomacy podcast second season. We are delighted to begin this new season with a country that fascinates the world through its extraordinary diversity, rich cultural heritage and growing international influence. In this episode we will explore Indonesia. Romania and Indonesia established diplomatic relations in 1950, building over the decades a relationship based on friendship, mutual respect and cooperation. Today, our countries continue to strengthen ties in diplomacy, education, culture, trade and people-to-people exchanges. When we think of Indonesia, we often image tropical beaches, volcanoes, ancient temples and exotic landscapes. But beyond all that, Indonesia is also a dynamic nation with a rapidly growing economy, a young and innovative population, and an increasingly important role in regional and global affairs. Today, I have the great honor and pleasure of welcoming His Excellency Mr. Meidyatama Suryodiningrat, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Romania, to guide us through the many layers of Indonesian identity, from its cultural richness and traditions to its diplomatic and economic partnerships. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for accepting our invitation to join this second season of Cultural Diplomacy podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here and I'm delighted to be conversing with you.
Thank you very much. As I was saying in my intro, Indonesia is one of the most diverse countries in the world, with hundreds of ethnic groups and local languages. How has this extraordinary diversity contributed to shaping its national identity?
That's always the big question, isn't it? Indonesia is a country which is the largest archipelago in the world. So imagine a country which stretches from London to Afghanistan, but is not a landmass, and comprised of 17,000 islands, hundreds of ethnic groups, hundreds of different languages, not dialects, and is united now for 80 years under one flag and under one nation. That has always been the challenge of Indonesia. Some say it is an imagined state, because there are no land borders, no natural barriers as such. It's just a collection of thousands of islands. That is why the motto of the Republic of Indonesia is, in Sanskrit language, is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which means unity in diversity. And by that means, we are not a melting pot. We don't force people to give up their identities, to give up their culture, to be one. But it is the richness of that culture which unites us all as one nation. And that is reflected in your question, as you said, how has that shaped? That has shaped the character and attitude of Indonesians to be a more tolerant and accepting country. Because we continuously, on a daily basis, have to deal with completely different, not just cultures, but people who are very different from us, but still the same nation. So that character of compromise, tolerance, togetherness, community is how it has shaped and defined the Indonesian nation. So that from that diversity, it becomes one, not singular, but one united entity. So once again, it's not a melting pot.
Yes.
Where people are forced or melted into one.
No.
But it is a collection of tapestries, which becomes a wonderful blanket.
Indonesia is also home to some of the world's most remarkable cultural treasures, and I will mention just two spectacular temple complexes, which I hope I will pronounce correct. Borobudur
Borobudur
and Prambanan.
Prambanan, yes.
Prambanan. How does Indonesia preserve and promote its cultural heritage while adapting these modern times?
Well, again, I think it relates to your first question. So, Borobudur, which you pronounce very well, not only that you hope to pronounce it well, but I hope you will come to visit one day.
I hope so too.
That Borobudur is a Buddhist temple. It is the largest Buddhist temple, I think, in Southeast Asia. And then Prambanan is a Hindu temple. We're together with Angkor Wat in Cambodia, which a lot of people know, are two of the largest Hindu temples in the world. But what people don't realize is Indonesia actually the country with the largest Muslim population in the world. And the place where everyone loves to go for a holiday is Bali, which is not just predominantly, it is very dominantly a Bali Hindu culture. So again, you see this tapestry. We are a country with the largest Muslim population in the world, but we're not an Islamic state. We celebrate the birth of Buddha. We have Christmas, Easter holidays. We have Islamic holidays. We have Hindu holidays. We even have a 2 or 3 day Chinese New Year holiday. So Indonesians actually have too many holidays.
Yeah, I will say that too.
So it is that patchwork again of combining all these wonderful cultures, accepting them. And that has been a strength. That can be very much of weakness, but that has been a strength of how Indonesia moderates itself and accepts itself within also the global community. Because we do not just engage with countries who have similar ideologies or similar views of global trade. We engage with everyone because within our own country, we have to engage with these very different cultures, makeups of society. So that's, in modern terms, that's how we look at the world. Because we're so different internally, but we can get along. That means in international trade, international relations, why cannot we get along with everyone else in the world without imposing our views? Now, a good example of that within the modern cultural society and the way we look at the world is, for example, we are a member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is comprised of now 11 countries. Within that, Indonesia is, of course, the biggest and most dominant country. But within that organization, you have Indonesia, which is the world's third largest democracy, and we're very proud of our democracy. But we live next door to a country which has never had elections in their life. And we are very good friends also with a country which is basically a one-party socialist system. While we have a multi-party democracy, we have 24 parties in our last election. They have only one country. But that ability to find foundations of compromise and similarities rather than differences is the way that we progress in our modern world. So for us, it's not about what's your opinion, what's my opinion, is where do we have shared values, where do we have shared commonalities, and let's start working from there, not from where our differences lie.
Yes.
So that's where it shaped things. And internally, that is how we also engage and been able to maintain a safe, unified, progressive, and modern society. It is not about the technology. It is not about dominance. It's not about economy. It's about the attitude in which you live in these differing communities and cultures.
You mentioned Bali, and I know that many people know Bali, but Indonesia offers much more than one island. Which destinations, traditions, or regions would you encourage Romanian travelers to discover?
Well, that's the thing about Indonesia. It's so big that even I have not been to most places of the country, right? Again, when you look at Indonesia, you can easily find Malay culture, Malay race, such as I am, from one end. You have a very strong Chinese community at another end. So that's the mix, and that's the challenge with Indonesia. Obviously, holiday destinations are determined on two things. Number one is infrastructure, as you know,
Of course.
airports.
Very
The second-
important, I will say.
Yes, of course. I mean, that's first and foremost. But even more than that, marketing. Bali has slowly captured the imagination of people as a tourist destination, as a paradise island. And the thing about paradise is they always have to have beaches, don't they? Or what I would say often the Western European concept of a paradise, there's a nice beach.
Beach, yes.
So that's the one thing which has made Bali unique, because it has beaches. The region where the two temples are located, Borobudur and Prambanan,
Yes.
actually culturally is a very also high distinct culture destination. So one recommendation is obviously that area. But I am biased because that is where my ancestors come from. So take that with a grain. So the other thing is, if you are in Bali, I would strongly recommend that you jump 1 hour or 1.5 hours on a plane or a boat and go east of Bali, which is a place called Nusantara, East Nusantara. And one of the primary places you can go there is where you find the Komodo dragons, one of these ancient prehistoric dragons which are actually still alive. They can be as long as I am tall. They are very unique and only found in that area. So that's one of the places definitely that sort of a bucket list sort of thing that you must see.
Traditional arts, such as batik, which I think you are wearing today, wayang puppet theater, traditional dance are recognized worldwide. Which cultural expressions do you believe best represent the soul of Indonesia?
Because we're so diverse, I think you would have civil war if I picked one or the other, because again, it represents those differing cultures. Yeah. But the one sort of line that is almost there in every part of these, what we call Indonesian culture, is that it is a community sort of based engagement. When you talk about gamelan, which is the musical instrument, or if you've ever experienced angklung, where you play a bamboo instrument.
I had the pleasure last year.
Yes, right? Or even the wayang puppeteers and so on. All those, if you notice, most of them cannot be played by a single person. It is always a community-oriented affair. So if you look angklung, gamelan, no one plays the angklung by themselves. Yes, there are modern contraptions, but traditionally you don't play that. You play that within a community. So all those arts and features always represent some sort of community aspect. And that, I think, is the wonderful part about Indonesia. It always comes down to doing something together as a community. Always that as a community. Even like Romanian arts and so on, there are specific meanings. But all the meanings for Indonesia always relate back to community and togetherness.
What aspects of Indonesian culture, heritage, or contemporary society would you like the Romanian public to discover more deeply?
You know, at the end of the day, whether you are Indonesian or Romanian, inherently, I think we have a similarity. And that similarity comes down to the basic roots of what I say again, community living. We live in a big city. I lived in Jakarta, this is Bucharest. Bucharest is also a big city. But if you want to feel the heart of Romania, you go outside of Bucharest.
Of course.
And that is where you feel the heart of Romania. And the same way, and if you go down to that essence, it's really the same with Indonesia. That sense of community, family, togetherness, and so on. And within that, I believe, at least from an Indonesian perspective, is the ability and the sense of trying to moderate living in a world which is changing. The aspect I said about finding common ground. The aspect what I said about not overlooking differences, but trying to work them out. I think if you are a big city person, it's more of what can I get, how much does it cost? It's
Yes.
a cost-benefit ratio. But if you have those communal instincts, it's about how can we live together without imposing things on each other. And I think that's a challenge which is going to increase in the coming years. I think that's an aspect which many nations have sort of lost, because it's always about division. What do you believe in? What's your ideology? What's your political party? And so on. It just continues on. But that essence of community that we still maintain in Indonesia and Romania still has, if we can maintain that, that's about, I think the basis of living in the future. In the same way that at the end of the day, when we in Asia look at Europe, you're all living on the same continent, basically, right? It's whether you're at the end of France or stretching all the way to the eastern front.
Yeah, it's the same.
You can take a car and drive, which means you should be able to find certain commonalities in which you can live together. If you lose that, then you are always going to be in a state of perpetual conflict and mistrust. And that, I think, is that essence that we try to maintain.
Thank you. This answer was very, I don't know, make a point for...
But for us, it's always like, yeah, but you're in this, you're on the same island, basically.
Yes.
Right? It's even harder for us because we're 17,000 islands. Me and my staff, for example, we can identify, oh, you're from that island, I'm from that island, I'm from this island.
Ah, okay.
For me, it's a bit like, oh, you're Romanian. Yeah, it's a 6-hour drive to Sibiu. It's another 2 hours to Timisoara. Yeah, but you're all on the same, you should be able to get along. There are always going to be differences, but again, you should find the commonalities. That's where you start, not from the differences.
Your first impression about Romania when you first arrived here?
My first Romanian impression was, and I've traveled quite a bit, I've traveled to Russia, much of Eastern Europe and so on, is that, okay, this is an East European country. And the stereotype of an Eastern European country is, apart from the women are beautiful, the second stereotype is people are cold. Yes.
Okay.
The stereotype is people are cold. Because compared to what some Asians are, you don't naturally smile at the first glance at a stranger.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, it's very different. You're not naturally warm to strangers, which is also understandable, but sort of different. But the same way I found with many Europeans, and especially Romanians, is that once you get more than 15 minutes with them, they are exceptionally warm. Sometimes in Asia, they are very warm, but do they mean it? And this is not against Asians, but they are naturally warm to everyone, which sometimes you can question, oh, they're nice to everyone. When you get to know people here is when they are warm to you, you know that they like you. They are very easy to you. They open up their homes very easily. But again, I think the impression, it's always difficult for first impressions because most people come to the capital or the major cities. And in the capital and major cities, you're very heavily influenced by urban living, by traffic, right?
Yes.
By business, by everything. When you go slightly outside, and I've had the good fortune, as I said, CBU, Alba Iulia, Cluj, Timisoara, even Constanta to some extent, that is, you feel something different. The people are very different because, again, the pressures of life, the culture, the pace is very different. Here, everyone's pacing and short-tempered because in urban living, you're getting caught in traffic jams and so on and so forth.
Your Excellency, before becoming an ambassador, you built an impressive career in journalism and media leadership.
I built a career, I don't know if it's impressive.
I know there is. How has that experience influenced your diplomatic work?
I think whether you are a journalist or a diplomat, in this case an ambassador, in many ways there are more similarities than there are differences. And those similarities is one of the reasons, or the primary reason, why I love doing both jobs. You meet people. You meet people and you engage with people. Journalism, yes, it's about writing stories, it's about investigative reporting and so on, but you cannot do that unless you engage with people. And that's the first and foremost. It starts off from that engagement. In journalism, you engage with people to write stories. In diplomacy, you engage with people to have negotiations. It's the same way. You know, and that's why I think at the end of the day, whatever job you take, it's that ability to engage with people and various different kinds of people is what's the most satisfying above everything.
What inspired you to dedicate your professional life to public service and international relations?
Oh, that's a difficult question. You know, as a more senior journalist, when I meet young people who apply for a job in journalism, I always say, you go into the job for three simple reasons. One is you love to write. Number two is you're an activist. And number three, you just need a job. Quite honestly, though I love to write, and I was a bit of an activist when I was young.
But the third one was
I probably really just needed a job. But it then became a job that you fall in love with, right? It's a bit like life. You don't know whether, you don't decide who you're going to fall in love with, you just fall in love.
Of course.
You don't know, oh yeah, I'm going to turn the corner and fall in love. You don't know that's going to happen. Before you reach that corner, you might fall in love with something else. So I think that was sort of the part of it. And again, the aspect of just engaging with people and doing something with your job. Of course, you're getting paid for it, but doing something with your job that you are not necessarily undermining people. You're still trying to help people. In journalism, and people can debate this, but in journalism, essentially, you are trying to give news, information, and educate people. In diplomacy, you're sort of trying to do the same thing. You're trying to engage with people to have good relations. And the easiest part of diplomacy is actually the most important part of diplomacy. And what's that? That these two countries don't go to war. That these two nations don't fight each other. That these two nations like each other. Because that's the basis of everything, is that. So there's also that aspect. I don't think I would be good at just working in the stock market, trying to make money. I would love to make a lot of money, but I don't think that would be a passion. And for anything, passion is always important.
Because you mentioned, if you had not pursued a career in diplomacy, what other profession do you think you would have enjoyed doing?
I love to eat, but I can't cook. As a young boy, I loved to play. I wanted to be a football player, but I didn't have the technical skills.
Okay.
As a teenager, I wanted to be a rock star, but I couldn't play guitar. But at the end of the day, it is always something related to people, engagement. I'm not good at making money. There are people who are just so good at making money.
I know.
I'm not good at that. It's about being in touch with people. I'm not good at selling anything. I'm very uncomfortable. Again, I'm good at marketing, but not selling.
Sales.
Yeah. It just feels you're selling something. Marketing is, hey, this can be beneficial for both of us. So that sort of thing. I think I would be in an NGO or something, or an international organization. Yeah. I definitely cannot work in a bank. I cannot sit down all the time.
You need to...
I need to move, I need to meet people, yes, and engage. So probably NGO or something like that, that would be interesting.
Having represented Indonesia in different capacities through your career, what have been some of the most valuable lessons you have learned about intercultural dialogue?
That the more you travel, the more you see people are different, and the more you understand that essentially they are the same. Everyone loves their family. Everyone hopes their children will be better than they are. Everyone just initially wants to have a nice, comfortable life. So essentially, it's about the same. There are certain egos, certain ways we do things differently. But again, it's about that similarities rather than differences that we should work on. Things that for us are taboo, which for you is very natural, but that shouldn't be the difference maker. I will give you a very easy example. If you ever go to, this is the same thing I say to anyone that goes to Indonesia. If you go to Indonesia, never give anything with your left hand.
It's good to know.
That is
it's
extremely impolite.
Okay.
For our culture. It's a complete no-no. Even if I was holding something, if I was holding a baby and I need to give something to you by your left hand, even I would say, oh, I'm sorry, I give you something with my left hand. I would need to say, I apologize, you say that. In Romanian culture, it's fine. Left hand, right hand?
It's same.
It's the same, right?
Yes.
So, can you imagine something so taboo?
Yes.
For us, for you, it's very normal. But should that separate us?
Of course
should
not.
that be exactly? That's something that I think is inappropriate, something that you think is appropriate. Okay, let's find a common ground. So that is about that, the most essential thing. And I just give you the most simple, innocuous example. But very taboo. I would not, for example, especially someone who's older, my mother, for example, or my brother-in-law, I'd give something left. Oh, no, that's, I would be condemned to hell 3 times over.
Oh my God.
Something like that. Yeah.
Now I'm thinking with which hand I gave you I think with the left one.
No. It's fine if you can, it's fine if you do this, right? You said.
Yes.
No, but that's just, again, more of a cultural quirk, but something very important to us. Yeah.
How would you describe a typical day in your life as ambassador?
As an ambassador, I think you are the same as any CEO, Chief Executive Officer.
Yes.
You are a financial officer. You are an external relations manager or spokesman. And you are also the office manager. So you are a CFO, you're a spokesman, and you are an office manager at the same.
So 3 or 4 in 1.
3 or 4 in 1. But I think that's common for any CEO in that sense. You are a financial manager because obviously any CEO or an ambassador is responsible ultimately for finances. And when you work, that's part of the responsibility. The most important aspects are actually the two things. The external relations officer and the office manager. The external relations officer is, at the end of the day, you do not represent yourself. That's the one thing that if you reach a certain level, again, if you're a CEO, it's the same thing, or you're a chairman, you don't have after office hours. You constantly represent your country, your office, your company, and so on and so forth. Your president cannot hang out in a bar after 5 p.m. and say, oh, I'm just hanging out personally. No, you are always the president.
Yes.
In that same way, you're always representing something. So I think that's the one thing. And it is a privilege to be doing that, honestly. And the second thing is always about office management. And office management comes to two things. Number one is making sure everyone works together. The easiest way to say, everyone gets along. You don't have to actually be friends, but you have to be able to work together. That's the most important thing. And number two, I always feel a sense of responsibility on preparing the next generation. You will have more senior people, but you will have more junior people.
Of course.
And those junior people are the next generation of diplomats, company executives, and so on. So apart from working, they don't realize it, but you're actually preparing them for all these tasks in the future. So when you give them additional tasks, you're purposely putting them a different challenge. You see, okay, this will be good for them in the future. They may complain at the time, why are you giving me extra work? But that's actually challenging them and preparing them for the future. They don't realize it. I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, my seniors like, why did they do this? Why did I do that? Oh, it was preparing me for something.
I'm glad you mentioned the young generation because I want to ask you what advice you can offer to young people interested in pursuing careers in diplomacy, international relations, or public affairs.
3 things. 1, realize that the world is bigger than the 17 centimeters of your cell phone. Yes, you know about the world through Google or whatever.
Yes.
But being so fixated on that, go out.
And live.
Meet people. Live. Sometimes make mistakes. Learn from them. Because again, diplomacy is about people, and you're in business. It's about people. It's about making those connections. And as something I always teach and remind my colleagues is that Zoom meetings are okay if you've met them 1, 2, 3 times. But to engage in an initial meeting through Zoom, you're never going to have that connection. Because the challenge is always trust. Looking in someone's eye, shaking someone's hand, a joke, a discussion. That's how you know they're serious. Because no matter what contacts you have through emojis or an emoji cannot really, okay, is this person really serious?
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The second, there's no substitute to discipline and hard work. No matter what you say, I still believe it's discipline and hard work. Our ancestors who worked as farmers on the land, they had it. At the end of the day, you have to have that discipline and hard work, the toil to work. And the results you reap at the end of the season. Don't expect to go into a job and become the boss or the manager in 6 months. You have to work, be disciplined. Like in the land, like in agriculture, 6 months down the road, 1 year, then you start reaping the benefits. And then probably the third thing is learn to work together. I found that when people are building a team, they don't necessarily get the best person. If you have a 5-man team, you may have one which is the most brilliant person in the world, but they're not going to have 5 people who are the most brilliant.
Brilliant, of course.
They're going to get people whom they can trust and work together. So being able, again, accommodate, can you work together, can you build a team? That's going to be the thing. The one thing that I think younger people don't understand, at the end of the day, when your most important job is there, it's not about the technical capacity. It's about being able to manage people. That is the most difficult thing. That's where you get paid, actually, managing people to do that. That's why football teams have managers, managing those people. You have maybe one brilliant player, but you need to build 10 others around him to support him as such. That's the job of the manager, and that's where the key is going to be.
This year marks 75 years of diplomatic relations between our countries. Beyond the celebrations, what would you describe the state of economic relations today?
I would say that it is good, in a good state of unfulfilled potential. So it is probably in a state where everything is great, is fine. Even if we don't do anything tomorrow, it's still going to be great, it's fine. But we are not exploiting each other's advantages. I think distance has a lot to do with that. You have to remember that we are almost 10,000 kilometers away from each other. The two capitals, if you fly, it will take about 15 to 16 hours. That's a long flight. But we have used distance as an excuse for being distant. And that's where the danger lies. We become complacent. The thing with Indonesia and Romania in terms of trade is that so much of our economic potential is actually complementary with each other. We don't produce the same things. The things that Romania has is what Indonesia needs and vice versa. But we're not exploiting that enough. And I think it's our job together is trying to exploit and raise the awareness about each other's potential, because there's so much more that we can do. So I would repeat, it's a good state where we have actually not been able to realize our full potential.
Could you highlight some sectors where you see significant opportunities for stronger collaboration between Indonesian and Romanian companies?
Yes, there are quite a few, and those quite a few have not been exploited enough. For example, Romania is very strong in the agricultural sector. I go to various cities outside of Bucharest, especially in the north, Transylvania area and so on. And I always ask, I asked the Chamber of Commerce there, I asked the industry, I asked the local administrations, like, okay, you're growing. Is this going to be, in 20 years, is going to be an industrial city, industrial area, or agriculture? And the answer is always the same, agriculture. Agriculture. Romania does not take advantage of its agricultural advantages to sell to Southeast Asia and Indonesia in particular. And one example I would say is the easiest one. Indonesia consumes and imports about 11 to 12 million tons of wheat per year, cereal as you call it.
Yes.
Your exports there are minimal. In fact, until December of last year, you had no exports of wheat to Indonesia. That is an opportunity. And then there are other areas, for example, in terms of you do very well in meat, cattle. and so on. One example, again, is Indonesia in 2025 imported more than 500,000 livestock and imported more than 180,000 tons of frozen meat. Almost none were from Romania. So there you also see the potential of the market that can be done. That's why we push Romanian businesses to please look at Indonesia. This is a market which you have not exploited. We are very happy that in our engagements with regional business associations, there is more interest to attend, for example, at the end of this year, the Indonesia Trade Expo, which is the largest in Southeast Asia, to highlight Romanian products. In that same way, Indonesia here various opportunities in terms of processed wood, in terms of various natural resources. I think if you look at it, the opportunities, I would not say endless, but there's so many. What is Romania's largest export to Indonesia at present? It is actually shipping machineries or shipping parts. Again, it could be more. Indonesia has the largest merchant navy in the world because we are the largest archipelago, so we have so many. So again, there's so many there that we are not exploiting enough. It's growing organically, but it needs a push. It needs some fertilizer. It needs more irrigation that it can grow further.
I know also that Indonesia is attracting international investment in areas such as digital technology, manufacturing, as you mentioned, renewable energy and infrastructure. Do you see also in these areas opportunities for Romanian businesses interested in exploring the Indonesian market?
2 or 3 easy areas off the top of my head easily. One is in the IT sector. Right? As you said, people mentioned digital economy. It could be anything digital, yes. And again, why? Because we have one of the largest presence on the digital world, whether it's social media and so on, just because of our population. Our population is 285 million people. I think 3/4 of that have cell phones. I would say the statistics. And most Indonesians, believe it or not, like to have more than 2 cell phones and 2 numbers. So it's very, very present. That's the easiest one. Second that I would say is on areas of renewable energy, which is also very popular in Romania. But the challenge with Romania is that you have these very unique, innovative technologies, but they're all more on a smaller scale. Maybe in certain towns, certain areas, and so on. It needs the investment of time to go to places like Indonesia and try and sell it there. And then just once you hit Indonesia, it's always a scaling up because of the size, the number, how big it is. So that's very easy. Renewable sources is definitely, and I think most of the things in renewable resources are things of which naturally are available, whether that's water, solar, wind. And I think something which is growing in Romania is the use of garbage, trash, to become, that's something which, again, that Indonesia needs.
Like compost?
Compost, exactly, yeah.
Okay. I know that Indonesia is building a new capital city. Maybe you can share with us some insights.
Yeah, that's the challenge with Indonesia is that our major city, which is called Jakarta, which is the capital, is not only a capital city, it's not only it has become a megapolitan. It's not just one city, so it's not just a metropolitan, it's a megapolitan which encompasses greater, like the greater Bucharest area. When you say Bucharest, Sector 1 to Sector 6,
Yes,
Ilfov,
we have
and
different districts,
yeah.
let's
So
say.
that is comprised. But that area for us comprises of more than 30 million people. So that's almost twice the population of Romania in one city. You can imagine the resources being absorbed by a city of 30 million people, to the point that it has become unhealthy for living, so unmanageable. So we need areas, new areas of growth. So the idea of the capital is twofold, two or threefold. One is to establish a new area, a new capital in which government can focus on the business of government. In many ways, it will be like Washington and New York. Washington is sort of like the government area, New York is the business area. So Nusantara, which is the new capital, the one being developed, will be the sort of the government area, and Jakarta will be the business area. So that's one. Number two, the idea is always to spark new areas of growth. If the government builds a new capital, a new city, which is strongly supported, business, people around, growth will develop as such. So that's the strategy.
That's why I was asking, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I understood that the government is offering actually substantial tax incentives for foreign investors and suppliers which are involved in, as we said, renewable energy, digitalization, maybe construction, road infrastructure.
I think the two keys, again, this is where it becomes interesting and where I touched on, or you touched on earlier, is that primarily one of the immediate character of the city, apart from being a government place, is it is digitally based, and it has to be green. So we don't want to build Jakarta 2.0,
Yes.
which is heavy traffic, heavy, very polluted, and all those sort of things. So when you look at industries on those parts, is again two things. One is it has to have a lot of green technology and a lot of digital. So those are the opportunities primarily there.
How is the embassy offers, let's say, support to Indonesian companies and also to Romanian companies which they are interested to, to explore opportunities in?
Well, I could give you the regular spiel that the embassy always wants to do, help and so on, and which is true, we do want to help and so on. But I think for everyone, they have to understand, at the end of the day, embassies do not do the business. It's the companies that do the business. Embassies primarily do 2 or 3 functions, which are actually essential at the initial phase. One is linking and matching.
Yes.
Right?
This support.
That is the important part, because, oh yes, we want to have trade relations. Good, fine, but what kind? So if there was, for example, a bicycle company from Romania, I say, okay, if you want to do business in Indonesia, that's fine, but that's not necessarily the right area.
Know that.
Yes. So that's the primary job of the embassy, is to give the best advice in linking and matching. Those are the first thing. The second thing is obviously regarding helping out directions regarding permits and regulations. Right? Permits and regulations, especially if you have never been to that part of the world, is perhaps linking and matching you not necessarily with certain companies, but certain parties who can help you with these sort of things. it is a jungle if you've never been to a jungle. If you're Tarzan, it's not a jungle, right? So it's helping you ease into that part. And those are primarily the two most important job of an embassy vis-a-vis business. It's that initial phase. Once you're there, once the business is done, okay, the embassy effectively has no role. The private sector does everything itself. The third part is to try and help synchronize rules and regulations, and this is something that the business part doesn't see. Synchronize rules and regulations that make, from each country, that make it easier to do things. And the two most important things I think that to synchronize at the initial phase, or always the foundation, is one, issues about taxation. Hence you have agreements on double taxation and so on and so forth. And number two is consular affairs. How easy is it for the movement of people to enter, particularly businesses, to enter one country or another? That's why in ASEAN, for example, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, there is a special ASEAN lane for business people. So if an Indonesian businessman go to Bangkok, there's an ASEAN lane rather than a tourist lane. Those are things. For example, for Romanians, if they want to go to Indonesia, they have three ways, it means. One is to get a visa online. One is to get a visa through the embassy.
Yes.
Or third, they can just hop on a plane and get a visa on arrival. And that facilitates how fast businesses will go. Because you can't sell things if you can't enter the door.
Of course.
Yeah. So again, that's part of the primary task of an embassy.
Looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of Indonesian-Romanian relations?
I would hope that we are two countries that are very far apart in terms of distance, but very close in terms of awareness. Because our two countries diplomatically have very, very, very good relations. We mutually support each other in terms of international organizations. And in this current world, where all that we know seems to be falling apart, we are two countries that still abide, respect, support the international system, which is international laws, protocols, and so on. We are two countries that still support that. So that's something which I think is very important in a world which seems to be falling apart. You need these anchors of stability towards a particular global order in which Romania and Indonesia can play a role. The second thing is I would strongly, strongly hope that Romania develops its infrastructure and truly become a gateway to Central East Europe and the Balkans, because it has all the potential to do that. Distance is closest, you have the ports there, it's just about continuing to develop the infrastructure. And once that's done, the infrastructure, that term, if you build it, they will come. Once you've built it, I think that will be much stronger. But above all else, at the end of the day, I think it is about two countries that has had historically a very good and close relationship, that has sort of not forgotten each other, but a bit neglected each other, but can find each other because the potential of both are too big to ignore.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Once again for accepting our invitation and for sharing your insight, experiences and vision for the future for this important bilateral partnership.
It's been my pleasure to be here, and I hope I have at least been a bit educational, and I also thank you for your continued support in engaging the business sector on potential business on areas which may not necessarily be on the attention or the radar of Romania. So thank you so much.
With pleasure. And for our audience, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. I'm Catalina Damian, and see you next time.